Have you ever found yourself at a summer barbecue, the wonderful smell of grilling burgers filling the air, and felt a little twinge of guilt? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? On one hand, you have this delicious, juicy burger that's been a part of celebrations and family meals for as long as you can remember. It represents comfort, fun, and a classic taste that's hard to beat. But on the other hand, maybe you've heard whispers or seen headlines about how our food choices, especially our love for beef, might be connected to the health of our planet. It can feel a bit confusing and overwhelming, leaving you to wonder if it's even possible to enjoy the foods you love while also being a good caretaker of the earth. This question isn't about making you feel bad for loving a good burger. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about understanding the amazing connections between our dinner plates and the world around us. Science gives us the incredible tools to look at these connections, measure them, and find creative solutions. So can we really have our burger and a healthy planet too? The answer is a resounding yes, but it involves a little bit of science, a dash of curiosity, and a willingness to explore some new and exciting ideas about what we eat. To understand the environmental impact of a burger, we need to look at its main ingredient, beef. Producing beef is one of the most resource-intensive things we do in our food system. Think about all the things a single cow needs throughout its life. First, there's the land. A lot of land is required, not just for the cows to stand on, but for them to graze and roam. Even more land is needed to grow their food, which is often made of crops like corn and soy. In many parts of the world, huge areas of forest, which are vital for absorbing carbon dioxide from our atmosphere, are cleared to make way for cattle ranches and fields to grow animal feed. Next, let's talk about water. Cows drink a lot of water, but that's only a small part of the story. The really big water usage comes from growing their food. The crops that are fed to cattle are incredibly thirsty. It takes thousands of gallons of water to produce a single pound of beef. When you compare this to plant-based foods, the difference is astonishing. Beyond land and water, raising cattle contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions, the gases that trap heat in our atmosphere and cause the planet to warm up. So when we hold a burger in our hands, we're holding more than just a meal. We're holding a product that required immense amounts of land, water, and energy to create. We don't have to guess about the environmental impact of our food. Scientists around the world are studying this very topic and have given us some incredible data to work with. One of the most comprehensive studies came from researchers at the University of Oxford. They analyzed data from nearly 40,000 farms in 119 countries to get a clear picture of how different foods affect the environment. They discovered that meat and dairy production, despite providing only 18% of the calories we consume globally, uses a staggering 83% of all farmland. That's a huge amount of land dedicated to a relatively small portion of our food supply. The Oxford study, led by Joseph Poore, also revealed the massive impact on greenhouse gas emissions. They found that the food system as a whole is responsible for about a quarter of all human-caused greenhouse gas emissions, and livestock farming is the biggest contributor within that system. Beef production stood out as having a particularly high impact. For every gram of protein, beef produces significantly more emissions than plant-based proteins like peas or tofu. So what does all this science mean for our everyday lives? It can feel daunting to think about global land use and greenhouse gas emissions when you're just trying to decide what to have for dinner. This is where a simple, actionable goal can be incredibly powerful. Based on the scientific evidence, experts have come up with a surprisingly manageable recommendation. What if we aim to eat just one beef burger every 2 weeks? Think about the collective power of such a change. If millions of people in countries with high meat consumption, like the United States or the United Kingdom, made this small shift, the cumulative effect would be enormous. It would translate into a massive reduction in demand for beef. This reduced demand would mean less pressure to clear forests for cattle ranching, a significant decrease in the amount of water needed for agriculture, and a substantial drop in the greenhouse gas emissions associated with the livestock industry. This approach is also psychologically more achievable than demanding that everyone become a vegetarian or vegan overnight. For many, the idea of completely giving up meat can feel too extreme or culturally difficult. Ultimately, the One Burger a Fortnight challenge is about being mindful. It encourages us to pause and think about our food choices rather than eating on autopilot. When we talk about the environmental impact of cows, one word comes up again and again: methane. So, what exactly is it? Methane, with the chemical symbol CH4, is a very powerful greenhouse gas. This means that when it gets into our atmosphere, it's incredibly good at trapping heat, which contributes to global warming. While there's less methane in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide, or CO2, it's much more potent. Over a 20-year period, a molecule of methane is more than 80 times more powerful at warming the planet than a molecule of CO2. Now, why are cows connected to this powerful gas? Well, it all has to do with their amazing but gassy digestive systems. Cows are a type of animal called a ruminant, which also includes sheep and goats. They have a special 4-compartment stomach designed to break down tough, fibrous plants like grass. The largest of these compartments is called the rumen, and it acts like a giant fermentation vat. It's filled with trillions of tiny microbes, bacteria, archaea, and fungi that do the hard work of digesting the grass. As these microbes break down the plant matter, they produce methane as a byproduct. It's a natural part of their digestive process. How does this methane get out of the cow and into the atmosphere? Most people think it comes from the back end of the cow, but surprisingly, that's not the main source. The vast majority of the methane, about 95% of it, is released when the cow burps. This process is called enteric fermentation. Every time a cow burps, it releases a puff of methane gas directly into the air. When you consider that there are over 1.5 billion cattle on the planet, all burping throughout the day, you can start to understand how this adds up to a massive source of global methane emissions. Understanding methane is key to understanding why beef has such a high climate footprint. It's not just about the CO2 from the supply chain, it's also about this incredibly potent greenhouse gas being released directly by the animals themselves. When we reduce our consumption of meat, especially beef, it opens up a world of incredible possibilities for our planet. One of the most significant benefits is the potential to free up enormous amounts of land. Remember that statistic from the University of Oxford? A whopping 83% of all farmland is used for livestock. If the global demand for meat were to decrease, we would no longer need all that land for grazing cattle or growing their feed. This newly available land could be used for something truly magical: rewilding. We could allow forests to regrow, wetlands to be restored, and grasslands to return to their natural state, creating vibrant habitats for wildlife to flourish. These restored ecosystems would do more than just bring back biodiversity. They would become powerful allies in our fight against climate change. Forests are nature's carbon capture machines. The benefits extend to our water resources as well. As we've learned, producing beef is incredibly water-intensive. Shifting to plant-based proteins can save a tremendous amount of water. Growing a pound of lentils, for instance, requires about 90% less water than producing a pound of beef. In a world where many regions are facing severe water shortages and droughts, this conservation is critically important. By choosing plant-rich meals more often, we are helping to preserve our planet's finite supply of fresh water. Making a planet-friendly choice to eat fewer burgers doesn't mean you have to sentence yourself to a life of bland or boring meals. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's an invitation to go on a culinary adventure and discover a universe of flavors, textures, and dishes that are both satisfying and sustainable. The world of plant-based cooking is vast and exciting, filled with hearty and delicious options that can easily take the place of a beef burger. Think of a rich and savory black bean burger, seasoned with cumin and chili powder, topped with fresh avocado and a zesty salsa. The key to a satisfying meal is often about hitting the right notes of flavor and texture, and plant-based ingredients are masters of this. For a meaty texture, you can turn to ingredients like mushrooms, walnuts, lentils, or jackfruit. Young green jackfruit, when cooked, has a surprisingly stringy, pulled pork-like texture that's perfect for barbecue sandwiches. Today, we are also living in a golden age of plant-based alternatives that are designed to mimic the taste and texture of meat with surprising accuracy. Companies have invested heavily in food science to create plant-based burgers that sizzle on the grill, have a satisfying chew, and even bleed like a traditional beef patty, using beet juice, of course. These products can be a fantastic gateway for people who are used to the taste of meat, making the transition easier and more enjoyable. Ultimately, exploring alternatives to beef is about expanding your palate, not restricting it. It's about trying that Thai green curry with tofu and coconut milk, or mastering the art of a perfect falafel, or discovering the simple joy of a pasta dish loaded with roasted vegetables and a flavorful tomato sauce. You might just find that your new favorite meal is one that is not only delicious and filling but also happens to be a superhero for the planet. It's easy to look at a global problem like climate change and feel small and powerless. The challenge can seem so immense that it's hard to believe that our individual choices could possibly make a difference. But science tells us a different story. It shows us that when it comes to our food system, the power truly is in our hands, or more accurately, on our plates. Every meal is a choice, and every choice sends a signal. When you choose a plant-rich meal over a beef burger, you are casting a vote for a world with more forests, cleaner water, and a more stable climate. It's a small act, but when multiplied by millions of people, it becomes a tidal wave of change. Think of it like this. You don't have to be a perfect environmentalist to be an effective one. You don't have to give up burgers forever or completely overhaul your life overnight. The journey toward a more sustainable lifestyle is built on small, consistent steps. Embracing the one burger a fortnight challenge is a perfect example of such a step. It's a manageable, realistic goal that has a scientifically proven positive impact. It's about progress, not perfection. This journey is also one of hope and optimism. The science that reveals the problems is the very same science that is lighting the way toward solutions. From incredible seaweed supplements that slash methane emissions to the simple, powerful act of planting a tree, we have more tools at our disposal than ever before. So the next time you're thinking about what to eat, remember the power you hold. Your fork is one of the most effective tools you have to shape the future of our planet. By choosing thoughtfully, you are not just nourishing your body, you are nourishing the earth. You are helping to protect precious ecosystems, conserve vital resources, and build a healthier, more sustainable world for everyone. It's a huge responsibility, but it's also an incredible opportunity. Let's embrace it with curiosity and joy, knowing that even our most bite-sized